Hello, everyone. My name is Dolf Gielen. I'm the hydrogen lead in the World Bank, and I will be the moderator for the session today. The title of this webinar is From Potential to Projects, Namibia's Experience in Green Industrialization. It's the 20th webinar we are organizing in the context of the Hydrogen for Development Partnership Series. And today, will be the focus on the experiences and lessons learned from developing clean hydrogen in Namibia and some ideas on how to take this forward. And this webinar very much builds on a visit we had to Namibia, I think now 2 months ago, where we were very impressed with the significant progress we could see in Namibia. So clean hydrogen, renewable hydrogen is what we talk about today. We see it as a key solution for decarbonizing hard-to-abate sectors. That includes some industrial applications such as steel and fertilizer, which we will be discussing today. We see also renewable hydrogen as a key opportunity for green industrialization, economic growth, and job creation. We will also discuss that angle, which is also very important in an Namibian context. From the World Bank side, globally, we are deeply involved in hydrogen with around $2 billion per year in concessional financing for hydrogen over the recent years, which makes us the largest financier, MDB financier for hydrogen at the moment. But also the International Finance Corporation, Multilateral Investment Guarantee Agency, part of the World Bank Group, are working on hydrogen. And financing is really a critical aspect for developing this sector because it's so capital intensive. So today's context is Hydrogen for Development Partnership. The Namibia Green Hydrogen Program is also one of the 55 partners, and I'd like to thank them for the excellent cooperation. It's supplemented by a financing initiative, which we call the 10 Gigawatt Lighthouse Initiative, where we work with 15 development financing institutions to get the first projects to final investment decision. We have picked 10 priority countries. Namibia is one of these priority countries. We see that Namibia not only has very good resources, but it has also a strong private sector engagement. We'll hear 3 examples today, and a determined government that sees hydrogen as a key part of the future economic development in the country. So today we will hear, we have reserved 1.5 hours. We will hear 6 interventions. 3 are from the World Bank side, 3 are private sector from Namibia. We will hear from High Iron, Daurus, and Zero, and I will introduce the speakers as we go along. So for the first intervention, I would like to give the word to Jadwiga Simicolenova, who is the practice manager for Southern Africa in the World Bank, for her keynote. Jadwiga, the floor is yours, please.
Thanks a lot, Dolf, and thank you all very much for joining. And I would like to start by apologizing. I will have to disconnect soon after the start. But besides that, I'm very excited to be opening this webinar. And I would like to start by also thanking our friends in High Iron, Zero, and Doran Hydrogen Green Village for being here with us today, for being good partners and collaborators, and sharing their stories with us. Because we're talking today about green hydrogen in Namibia, and this is a pivotal time because this is the new government that is embarking on the agenda of green industrialization. And there, green hydrogen plays a huge role because it will repower the initiative, it will power the economy, but it goes even beyond that. It's critical for mining critical minerals, it's important for powering economy as a whole, and green hydrogen agenda is actually front and center of Mission 300 ambitions of Namibia, and it's a big investment plan anchored in Namibia National Energy Compact, which Namibia will be launching soon nationally and then internationally. We at the World Bank have been working with Namibian government and supporting them in this agenda for quite some time. And it's not just us at the World Bank, it's us in the World Bank group together with our colleagues with IFC. And we hope our colleagues from MIGA will join as well. And we're also joining forces with other development partners in the country, like African Development Bank. And the exciting thing is that this big Namibian potential and actually enthusiasm of the country about green hydrogen is recognized not only by us and by all of you who joined the call today. Actually, clean investment funds selected Namibia among just 7 countries to develop their green industrialization agenda and put aside up to $250 million of highly concessional financing as potential support to the pipeline of operations and investments that Namibia will put hopefully forward very soon in front of the Clean Investment Fund Committee. And we, together with you and other development partners, stand ready to support Namibians to develop the pipeline of projects and to basically take full advantage of all of this concessional financing available to them. And we're very excited because for us, from where we are standing, green hydrogen is a big pillar of development agenda for Namibia. It's part of Mission 300, it's part of green industrialization, but also very importantly, a big part that anchors jobs agenda in Namibia and will hopefully help them fight unemployment as well as increase youth employment. So with that, again, thank you all very much for joining us here today. We value your time and I look forward for a very productive discussion. And Dolph, with that, to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jadwiga. So now we will move into the presentations of the projects in Namibia. And the first presentation will be from Johannes Michels, who is the managing partner and founding member of High Iron, and he leads the Oshivela project. So that's the pilot project for green iron in Namibia that is currently operational. So it's one of the few green iron projects, hydrogen iron projects worldwide that is in operation. Very remarkable, and there are ambitious expansion plans. So with that, I hand you the floor, Johannes, please.
Thank you very much, Dolph. Thank you for the kind introduction and good afternoon from Namibia, actually from the Oshivela side at the factory here. As Dolph already introduced, we are one of the first projects worldwide to implement CO2-free iron production. And as you see on this first slide, in the center of what we do stands renewable energy, our sun, hydrogen, and iron. Next slide. Why we do this is, number one, iron making and the whole steel industry is one of the greatest or biggest drivers of climate change. It accounts for around about 9% of the global CO2 emissions. And it's specifically one process step within this industry that causes so many CO2 emissions. And next slide, please. And that is because of the reduction step of the iron ore. So when iron ore is mined, it's basically an oxide. So it means it's a combination of iron and oxygen. And to loosen this bond, this very, very strong bond, it requires a lot of energy. So around about 3.5 megawatt hours of energy to produce 1 ton of iron, of pure iron. And the world currently produces around about 1.4 billion tons of iron yearly by using carbon. So you can see on the very left that the carbon is burned to become carbon monoxide, and the carbon monoxide is a very, very strong reactant that in the right environment then takes the oxygen from the iron ore, so that you have on the one hand carbon dioxide, large emissions around about 1.8 tons per ton of pure iron that is produced. On the other hand, and on the far right, you can see what we are doing. There has not been a commercial production yet, but there is one now with the Oshvilla project. So we replace the carbon monoxide with hydrogen. Since the hydrogen is a similarly strong reactant in a special environment, so in our case in a rotary kiln, it reacts with the oxygen of the iron oxide, so you get H2O, so water, and on the other hand sponge iron, so ready to be further produced. Next slide. And in the whole overall process, you can see from the very left, there's the iron ore mining. So the material is taken from the ground. It's crushed then into fine materials and then separated from the waste material, so from mostly sand. And then it's brought into the kiln. And on the other hand, on the other side, we produce a lot of energy from solar. We use it to split water into its two elements, into hydrogen and oxygen, and then we transport the hydrogen into the kiln. There we have the reaction again, and as a waste product, we have the water back, and on the other hand, iron that we can then transport to the many steel mills in the world. And the next slide. And actually here is the comparison between the two ways. So the current way where coal and iron ore is transported to factories. So on number one to a coking factory, so that coking coal is made and the iron ore fines is brought into a sintering plant to create pellets, and both then the coking coal and the iron ore pellets are brought into a blast furnace. There then is hot metal produced, and then you have a treatment step again with oxygen to reduce the carbon, and then you have steel. And the average CO2 emissions along the whole value chain, so from the coking plant until the steel, is between 1.8 to 2.3 tons of CO2 emissions. And below is then the way that we are doing the production. We produce green hydrogen here on site. We bring in the iron ore fines right into the process, and then produce DRI or HBI that is brought into an electric arc furnace, and there steel is being produced. Next slide. And we are in operations with our first industrial step. It's a 25 megawatt solar power plant, and we produce 5 tons per hour for 3,000 hours a year. So at the moment, it's only a daytime operation, but it's already abating around about 27,000 tons of CO2 emissions. And we are working on the upscale now, so we are aiming for a final investment decision in Q2 next year, whereas we increase the production capacity to 200,000 tons, so 8,000 production hours, so also in the night, based on a 400 megawatt solar power plant and 400 megawatt hours of battery storage. And that's already then 10% of the annual CO2 emissions of Namibia and an investment volume of around about 220 million euros. And we're concepting also the phase 3. So we choose a modular growth because we say also our suppliers and the SMEs with who we built our phase 1 need to grow with the demand. And that will be then the next step towards a production of 2 million tons, which then, is still a very small production in the global sense, but for Namibia, a very significant industrial development. So also just for the picture of it with the commissioning of our plant, so the Shivela plant, Namibia has only become the 11th African country with the capabilities to produce iron. So that's also a significant industrialization step. Next slide. And this is possible because of a very, very significant decrease in costs and energy costs. So in our phase 1, we are roughly at around about $1.8 US per kilogram of hydrogen. We are now almost done with the engineering of phase 2, where we worked a lot with with a lot of partners to reduce the energy costs to go below $1 US per kilogram of hydrogen. Next to it, you can see how much that is calculated in a kilowatt hour in form of hydrogen, so to make it comparable to coking coal costs of energy. And you can see in the phase 1 with around about $0.05 per kilowatt hour in form of hydrogen, we are still at roughly double the cost of coal. We are competitive still with such productions because of some other reasons, but we're still at roughly double the price, so it requires a premium. But at phase 2, we are almost at parity towards coal. And then at phase 3, we are actually below the cost of coking coal, which means that also our product, CO2-free product, will be cheaper than a product based on coal. Next slide, please. Yeah, and this is an overview of the plant. You can see it. It was around about 70 different Namibian SMEs that built this plant. It took us roughly 1 year to build the second largest solar power plant. I've just learned that it's the largest electrolyzer in the Southern Hemisphere currently. I was told, on the very right, you can see the product. That's iron pellets that we produce, cold briquetted iron. Next slide, I have also got a video of how it looks here at the opening, when then in April 2015, our president commissioned the plant. You can see in the background, that's the solar factory. Down here, the blue building, that's the kiln where actually the reduction happens. Behind, we have the electrolyzer in the white building. And in the background, you see the big spaces of the Namib Desert, which allows a lot of space for future upgrades and upscales, which will happen modularly. So we will build 4 more of the kiln systems that you see here. Quite a lot more electrolyzers, because we will store the hydrogen in the night for night production. A lot of more solar power capacity. And yeah, this is a short introduction. I hope you enjoyed a short travel to Namibia, and I'm looking forward to hear now my colleagues from Daures and Zero.
Yes, thank you very much, Johannes. That was a very interesting overview with also very remarkable numbers about cost of hydrogen, etc. So I'm sure we will have some discussions on that. I propose we have the discussions at the end of the presentations, so everything together. So with that,
Thank
we
you.
move to thank you very much. We move to the next presentation, which will be from Jerome Namasep, who is the CEO of Daures Green Hydrogen Village. So that is a project that aims to produce nitrogen fertilizer, ammonium sulfate, also for agriculture in Namibia. It has been selected as a lighthouse project by UNIDO, and it will be commissioned in the fourth quarter of 2026. So, Jerome, please, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. I hope I'm audible. Okay, great. Yes, so the Daures Green Hydrogen Village is a project which is looking to demonstrate that nexus between hydrogen, ammonia, and agriculture. The project is currently in development of its phase 1.5, but in essence, the project will, by the end of this year, commence with the production of hydrogen and green ammonia, and then early into the middle of next year, we'll be producing ammonium sulfate fertilizer, which will then be, of course, the first synthetic fertilizer, low carbon fertilizer produced end-to-end in Namibia. And then, of course, in the next phase, we're looking to realize a 86 megawatt development, producing about 20,000 tons of ammonia, and conversely, 76,000 tons of ammonium sulfate fertilizer. This is an image of the facility. The project has been going through an extensive development life cycle, with construction commencing in May 2023. We are looking at a staged development. The project does have access to over 15,000 hectares of land available to it. So, of course, as mentioned, we are in this pilot phase 1 and 1.5, but we will be progressing on to phase 2, whilst we, in the new year, will be commencing with our feed for phase 2. The project is an ESG-friendly project. It represents shareholding by a local traditional authority as well as a conservancy group. This provides for about 10% of the 10% project shareholding. In addition to that, throughout the lifetime of the project, in excess of 375 jobs have been created, and the project has worked with in excess of 23 SMEs to realize its current development. The project also is producing agricultural produce in the Namib Desert. Oh, apologies. Are the slides moving?
They're not moving. They're not moving. No, it's still on the opening screen.
Okay, hold on. Apologies. Let me try and reshare. How about now?
It's moving.
Okay, perfect. So I'll just quickly re-articulate what I was mentioning. So we are looking to demonstrate that nexus between hydrogen, ammonia, and agriculture. We are in this phase 1.5, which should realize actually the production of low carbon ammonium sulfate fertilizer in Q4 next year. And at the same time, we are entering into feed for an 86 megawatt hybrid facility, which should produce about 20,000 tons of ammonia, and conversely, 76,000 tons of low carbon ammonium sulfate fertilizer. This is just a view of the facility. We started construction in May 2023, and the project has been operational over the last 12 months, of course, with various activities ongoing on site. For the development trajectory of this project. The project has access to over 15,000 hectares of land available to it for development. We've earmarked that phase 2 should take about 3,500 hectares. So we'd be looking at a staged development life cycle where we'd look to deploy assets as they, of course, come live and we go through this development life cycle. The project is an ESG-friendly project with community participation and impact. This represents shareholding by the Daure Daman Traditional Authority. So often we do like to say that this is probably one of the more widely owned hydrogen or green energy projects that you will come across. This also does inform a lot of the corporate social responsibility activities that the project does undertake to ensure local beneficiation of, a community's own beneficiation of its local resource. The project does also produce agriculture in the Namib Desert, producing a variety of products, including cucumbers and peppers. Together with that, in addition to our contribution to the agricultural sector, we also produce seedlings and then, of course, support smallhold farmers in realizing, agricultural developments or agricultural gardens for either subsistence or also to enable them to be able to access, formal markets and derive a living through the sale of agricultural produce. This project was selected as a lighthouse project by the A2D facility, which is implemented by UNIDO and financed or funded through the UK government, together with our project partners, Mongila Project Advisory and Management. On the 12th of September, we hosted the groundbreaking for the construction of this fertilizer component at our facility. And as mentioned, we should realize it in Q3, Q4 2026. In addition to that, the project is also active in a training and development perspective, rolling out a program in partnership with the A2D facility to realize and train in excess of 250 million. And this training is really varied depending on, the level of qualifications or education that the participants may have, but it does focus specifically on agronomy together with renewable energy, as well as green hydrogen production and handling. With respect to phase 2 and its strategic intent, as you know, fertilizer is a significant contributor to global emissions. Is a significant contributor to global emissions. Southern Africa specifically consumes about 4.5 million tons of fertilizer, but only produces 7% of these. That's together with the fact that we are anticipating that populations will grow significantly in sub-Saharan Africa. The production of fertilizer and conversely, the production or increase in the yields produced are of significant importance to ensuring, food security from a Southern African or sub-Saharan perspective. That is where this phase 2 looks to participate. In our phase 2, we will look to avoid about 50,000 tons of CO2 in a agile de-risk project, which is, as I mentioned, about to enter into FEED. And some of the numbers that we are looking at in our phase 2 would be this hybrid mix of PV and wind together with battery, as well as a electrolyzer, which would produce about 20,000 tons of ammonia and conversely close to 80,000 tons of low carbon ammonium sulfate fertilizer. This project does also align
Jerome,
with,
if I may interfere, the slides are not moving. You're still on the Lighthouse project slide.
Okay. Apologies, let me reshare again. Are you looking at phase 2 in numbers?
Yes.
Okay, so as mentioned, a hybrid development featuring PV, wind, as well as battery, producing 20,000 tons of green ammonia, and then, of course, 76,000 tons of ammonium sulfate fertilizer, achieving a utilization rate of our electrolyzer in excess of about 65%. The project does align with the NDP 6, which is Namibia's National Development Plan, which was launched in March this year, which features strong targets and commitment from the Namibian government with respect to the local production of fertilizer, together with the realization and production of green hydrogen and green ammonia at scale, thus subsequently achieving a targeted green industrialization from a national development perspective. We are happy to receive questions and participate in the discussion, but I have also shared this email address. So should there be any questions or any interested persons that have attended the session that would like to engage, please do feel free to also send us an email. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jerome. So a second example of a significant hydrogen project under construction in Namibia. So it shows that a lot is happening in Namibia, where in other places they say, oh, it's very difficult to do. So we really want to dig a little bit deeper. What makes a difference? Why is it happening in Namibia? For third presentation, we zero. So zero aims to develop large-scale clean energy and green hydrogen infrastructure, and
project, which unlike the other two is still in development. It is a development project of scale. We'll quickly explore the project brief, the development status, and the timelines that we are working to, the key challenges we have, and the lessons we are learning along the way. So if I can flip to slide 2, a quick sort of overview of the project itself. It's strategically located in Erongo region of Namibia, leveraging the country's world-class solar resources and abundant land. It's designed to produce 500,000 tons per annum of green ammonia, fully compliant with the definition of renewable fuels of non-biological origin, RFNBO, with a 25-year operational lifetime. It's located at 10 hectares, the Walvis Bay North Port itself, about 100 hectares of industrial land, 15 odd kilometers from the port of Walvis Bay, and 5,300 hectares of farmland, about 110 kilometers northeast land from Walvis Bay, and an 1,110 kilometer transmission line corridor. With a key infrastructure will include 3 gigawatt 2.2 gigawatt hours of batteries, 1.65 gigawatts of electrolyzers, and 110 kilometer transmission line. And the project will export liquid ammonia through the existing operational jetty at Walvis Bay, which is, of course, the third largest port in sub-Saharan Africa. So why Namibia? Very straightforward. The country offers not only exceptional solar resources, very stable political and legal environment, and strong government support, and it also should be able to provide efficient permitting process. The project is being intentionally developed to deliver also enduring benefits to Namibia and its people, ensuring local value creation and economic growth. If I can flip to the next slide, the key metrics in terms of the project. First, it helps industrial clients decarbonize affordably. It is supported by the European Union and brings significant benefits to local communities. On the subject of creating local benefits, in addition to us starting to make some investments ourselves, Zero and its consortium partners have already secured education training, ensuring local workforce is upskilled and ready for the new opportunities as we go into the project itself. The project of a of production capacity with reputable entities already. Social upliftment is the core focus. Approximately 4,700 full-time equivalent jobs will be created during construction and 330 jobs during operation. A portion of the project cost is being structured to improve local electricity, water, education, and health services. Economically, the project supports Namibia's National Development Plan 6, which is aiming for the production of 1.3 million tons per annum of green ammonia and the creation of 30,000 new jobs by 2030. It'll improve, of course, the government's fiscal position. It's a project of significance, so it'll impact GDP and trade balances while creating opportunities for local businesses and supporting the green industrialization in the Erongo region. Next slide. The project itself enjoys strong recognition and is being included in Namibia's development plan, as I already pointed out. It's recorded in the EU Global Gateway, having signed a strategic MOU already, and the land rights have been secured for all three areas, and environmental social impact studies have been completed and licenses been approved for the solar PV site, the battery complex, and the transmission line components. We've applied for a generation license in Q3 2025, with studies underway to submit the transmission license. The transmission license in Q1 26. Pre-feasibility study is complete. We just about to start the full feed, which will go straight into EPC. The financial model confirms project viability with financing secured through long-term offtake agreements. There is a very strong interest from over 10 potential off-takers, and as I pointed out, term sheets have already been signed for 80% of capacity. The project is also supported by SDG Namibia 1 Fund, which in turn has a 49% government stake through the Environmental Investment Fund of Namibia. We have commenced engagement with multilateral and commercial banks to secure funding and to help us with early lead in creating social impact. As I have already said, we received a grant of 2 million and we have started vocational training. Next slide. We have been measuring on-site solar resource data spanning from solar radiance, temperature, humidity, albedo, wind speed, direction, soiling effects, and so on from March this year. And we are thus able to go straight into decline. In terms of project development, we can skip. We've been following a sort of the typical rigorous process so that we don't leave anything behind. Please. We've already completed pre-feasibility and business case has been approved. We've secured land, we've got environmental approvals. We are in the process of getting permits. We've started to engage with lenders and off-takers and shareholders. We will now go into detailed engineering for construction contracts to enable us to take final investment decision at the end of 26, which in turn should enable us to target commercial operation first quarter 2030 with a 25-year operational period. Key challenges, if I can go to the next slide. No major project can, of course, be done without having to deal with lots of challenges, and we have some here. Probably the most significant one is the conflict of rights with EPL holders. The ease of acquiring exclusive prospecting licenses is sterilizing land needed for development. No way will anyone make investments to build anything on a piece of land peppered with prospecting licenses permitting someone else to undertake subsurface exploration at some future time. So that's one issue that we are yet to deal with. We're working with the government. But intermediate coordination, the absence of a dedicated committee has slowed down strategic project support. That's something that we look forward to resolving in order to an outdated legislation does not incentivize and a framework to address political risk increases insurance costs and reduces competitiveness. And of course, we have to deal with this perpetual problem of perceived high risk in sub-Saharan Africa, which in turn drives up financing cost, driving up the cost of the end product. This is critical not just for the project, but for Namibia's broader green hydrogen ambitions as well. I can move to the next slide. So in developing this project along the way, we have revalidated a bunch of factors which in our view are essential for success. Choosing the right jurisdiction with strong resources, infrastructure, and government support is an obvious one. But involving the government through equity participation will also help to reduce risk. Engaging reputable environmental consultants to implement a credible ESA process right at the outset is pretty critical in our view. Investment capital and reliable partners, local partners, approvals, and to help design the strategy for maximizing local value retention. And selecting experienced technical partners and EPC contractors. And one of the most important ones, maximizing in-country value retention to deliver economic and social benefits, not just to ensure social acceptance of this project, but to also anchor this new sector in the economy of Namibia. And finally, just a kind of last slide, a quick introduction. Let me close with to Zero itself. Our mission is very much to deliver cost competitive customers developing large-scale projects. The Namibia project is of leveraging our global expertise and strong partnerships to deliver sustainable impact. Thank you for your attention.
Environment are very, very interesting. So we can go deeper on that in our discussion round. I would like to move then to finally to the two World Bank speakers. First, now we will hear from Nadia Tawana, who is our lead energy specialist for regional trade engagement in Southern Africa. Engagement, which Jadwiga already mentioned. Please, Nadia, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Dolf. Good morning, good afternoon, dear panelists and participants. Thank you for this invitation. It's a pleasure to be here today and to hear from some of the concrete Namibian green industrialization projects. I think this meeting comes at a time where Namibia is yielding the benefits of years of active development in this sector. It has been our privilege to support the country throughout their green industrialization journey. And I will share with you some of what the World Bank has been providing to Namibia. So as you heard earlier and several times, Namibia is exceptionally well positioned for green industrialization, key assets, clear ambition, and institutions that can deliver. And our focus is really to support them turn that vision into investable projects that can create jobs. Our approach to support Namibia on its strategic goals has been practical and sequenced. First, supporting the country to develop and operationalize their green hydrogen and derivative strategy, as well as their green industrialization blueprint agenda through technical assistance. While in parallel, we have been helping them to build the enabling conditions, transmission grid, storage, as well as support to deploy large-scale renewable energy projects. Second, we aim to support the development of a pipeline of privately led projects in green hydrogen and derivatives by utilizing blended finance to lower the cost of capital, as well as to de-risk investments. And we do all this with the just transition lens, linking green investment with skills development, local supply chains, job creation, and energy access. And in this context, the bank is joining forces with IFTB, IFC, and other DFIs to accelerate project development. And from that perspective, we see Namibia as similar to the other countries selected under the 10 gigawatt Lighthouse initiative that I've mentioned, countries that aim at leveraging support for early mover projects to reach FID, and then to be able to unlock a pipeline of green industrialization projects. So in terms of concrete support, what we've been doing is offering holistic technical assistance from development of country strategy to its implementation, really with the view to support the country and make the most out of this opportunity. I think it's about $3 million that has been mobilized to support from that angle. And this technical assistance includes support on the enabling environment framework to improve the competitiveness of the country, market sounding with key stakeholders across the chain to understand the needs of the private sector and be able to define adequate measures and to de-risk the projects. Skill strategy and plan for green industrialization to ensure availability of relevant human resources. Support to local SMEs. I think SMEs have been mentioned several times for all the projects, and I think this is critical to enhance their participation to maximize the job creation. And last but not least, trainings to senior public officials to facilitate understanding and alignment on green industrialization opportunities. However, technical assistance alone is not enough, and if there is something we learned is that concessional financing plays a critical role to unlock a pipeline of green industrialization projects, reducing cost and mitigating risks. And in this context, the World Bank, acting as coordinating MDB for Namibia under the CIF Industrial Decarbonization Program, is working with the government to structure a blended package that risk early industrialization project and shared use infrastructure. That's the selection that Jadwiga mentioned in her intervention when she said that Namibia has been selected under the CIF IDP and can access up to $250 million of concession with MDB lending to make first-of-kind projects investable, catalyze green industrialization, and maximize the associated committee allocated $500,000 to Namibia as a grant to prepare their Namibia sectoral transformation plan. And this plan is expected to be published in 6 months, informed by extensive stakeholder engagement and insights from the upcoming transaction advisor. The bank has also mobilized, in addition to the $500,000 from the CIF, the bank has also mobilized the $500,000 plan is expected to lay out how the joint interventions of IFTB, IFC, and World Bank will support unlocking bankable projects and associated job creation. The bank's further engagement in the country to benefit the green industrialization approach. The grid backbone, that's the project of the bank's project currently under implementation, which is financing the second 400 kV line Awas Copper Boom and the large-scale battery storage. And this is expected to facilitate integration of large volumes of renewables, improve reliability of the grid, enable regional trade, and serve emerging industrial loads. Second, by creating a bankable pipeline via the renewable energy scale renewable energy scale-up support project, the bank with ESMAP is financing preparatory studies and advisory for competitive procurement of solar and wind, which is expected to de-risk the projects and drive down tariffs for these projects implemented under IPP and PPP schemes. And third, by also supporting energy access and energy transition, just transition, the bank is supporting the government of Namibia develop and implement its National Energy Compact meets the national plan. And this ensures that green industrialization advances alongside progress toward energy access in alignment with mission strategic objectives. And finally, I would like to emphasize that the whole support provided in the country is done across various teams within the World Bank Group and ESMAP, but also in collaboration with all our partners in the 10 gigawatt lighthouse initiatives such as IFTB, KfW, but also GIZ, to ensure that the support from partners is complementary and timely. And we believe that this access to affordable financing remains key, and risk mitigation can facilitate this access. So to conclude, as you have heard, Namibia's green industrialization is moving fast from strategy to execution, with projects scaling up as we heard before, projects under development. And on our side, we remain really fully committed to work with all of you to ensure that the country can make the most out of this green industrialization vision. The bank has a significant experience with the $6 billion projects approved and in preparation. So there's a lot we can learn from and really try to share in the context of supporting Namibia. Thank you, Dolph.
Thank you very much, Nadia, for that overview. And then our final presentation, we'll hear from Jenny Hasselsten, and he is the lead for industrial decarbonization in ESMAP. And she will address our program and also a recent project we have started about socioeconomics.
So as mentioned, my name is Jenny Hasselsten, and I'm working at the World Bank's Energy Sector Management Assisted Program, leading a program on industrial decarbonization that supports Namibia and other countries with the green industrialization. And we do this through provision of grants for technical assistance, sharing of global knowledge, providing support on capacity building. And the program focuses on addressing emission in the hard-to-abate sector, such as steel, cement, chemicals, and fertilizers, and through supporting key technical decarbonization pathways, such as material and energy efficiency, electrification, green hydrogen, and clean feedstock, and CCUS. And so far, up to date, we have the program is on the global map. For example, support for decarbonization of industrial zones in Morocco and Turkey. We support IFC with the firm level that can funding to IFC that then provide firm level advisory, which have led to decarbonization investments. For example, a steel manufacturing company in Bangladesh, a tile company in Ghana. We also support industrial decarbonization roadmap, so on a national level and a sector levels. For example, one of this is a PESEM Industrial Port Complex roadmap, which is informing a 1.5 billion World Bank lending program to Brazil. And next slide. So in Namibia, as has been mentioned by Dolph and Nadia, the ESMAP and the World Bank Energy team is supporting the country's green industrial efforts through ongoing support, for example, development and implementation of the skills strategy and plan for green industrialization, and development and implementation of the national green hydrogen and derivative strategy. And these activities are informing the government's labor skill and management plan, which is part of the government's vision to maximize socioeconomic benefits linked to deployment of green hydrogen. In addition, we have this new activity that will start, which is funded from ESMAP's Industrial Decarbonization Program, which focus on particularly on job creation and SME participation in the green value chains. Specifically, this activity will identify entry points for Namibian SMEs across the green industrialization ecosystem. It will identify direct, indirect, and induced jobs from the project pipeline, and diagnose barriers and provide targeted solution and tailored capacity building for the identified SMEs, and strengthen governance and cross-ministerial coordination, which was mentioned by Patty as one of the key challenges. So we believe actionable it's critical to ensure job creation and gender inclusion and SME development, that these aspects are in future green transition investments in the country. So thank you so much, and over to you, Dolph.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jenny, for that input. So you've heard now three very innovative projects in Namibia. You've heard about the World Bank engagement in Namibia. So that concludes our presentations, and now we move to the last part of our webinar, and that is the Q&A session. You can type your questions in the chat if you like. You can also raise your hand, and if you want to ask a question. And to break the ice, maybe I can make a start. And Johannes, are you still there?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Okay. So I have a question about the hydrogen prices that you showed. You had less than $2. These are very remarkable numbers. Can you elaborate a little bit why it's so cheap?
Yes. So the key to it is the energy basis that has become so cheap. So we have done a lot of work with our with the OEMs directly to design a system that is very competitive. We don't have a grid connection, so it's a complete island system. As possible towards generating hydrogen, and yeah, this is the result of a lot of cooperation and also a lot of localization. So we built all the parts, so even the electrolyzer only with local resources, which of course also has a huge cost advantage to not have a lot of experts coming, and yeah, and as a result, in this we levelized cost of hydrogen.
Jerome and Paddy, would you like to react to these numbers? To this? Go to the same numbers?
Look, how do I react to numbers? Look, the numbers are sort of very good. I'm not. We haven't actually calculated the border price at the hydrogen boundary, but the point that Johannes is very correct. The cost of when we talk of hydrogen experts, anybody, the first thing everybody focuses on is the cost of electrolyzer. How expensive electrolyzers are. And of course, electrolyzers are expensive because we don't have that many of them deployed. But people forget that over 65% of the cost of producing green hydrogen is the cost of energy. And the cost of photovoltaic energy and batteries are that I don't think we quite appreciate how quickly we are able to become fairly competitive. A lot more work to be done on the electrolyzers, no question about it. down to the 1 point something dollar a kilo kind of level. But the fact that energy down, able to be very local and very project specific, all adds to the competitiveness. I'm not quite sure whether we are at that sort of. I know what I can tell you is that the first project of scale that I had the privilege of being involved in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia was already below 3. Okay, that I can assure you. So that was at the cusp of COVID. We financially closed post-COVID with all the cost increases. So clearly, the numbers should be much lower. And I also don't believe it will be that much longer before we get to that kind of $1 level. But I don't think we're quite there yet. But definitely, I think a couple of projects being done in Namibia are the ones that will help us get there.
Jerome, do you want to react? And I also a question in the chat about how do you achieve a 70% capacity factor if you are off grid?
Okay, thank you. Yes. So I mean, I can only reiterate what Patty mentioned, that we are seeing cost reduction. I mean, I can even just take some learnings from the process that we've gone through, where of course, we went through a procurement process with the realization of the pilot, but when checking in with some of the service providers that have delivered solutions during the pilot, even over these last 2 years, we're seeing a real reduction in some of these cost drivers. And of course, also for us, the cost of generation is the most significant contributor to our overall project capex. With respect to the question received by Juan in the chat, yes, the Dargis project is off grid. The next phase, which is being referenced in the question, which speaks to an anticipated utilization factor of about 70%, is as at pre-feasibility and pre-feed. What we are seeing from the work that's gone into articulating the solution, we are entering into feed, and it's anticipated that we'll be able to achieve this utilization rate. With this hybrid mix with wind PV as well as a battery energy storage.
Very good. Thank you very much. I see no hands raised for the time being. I have a question about the importance of the enabling framework. You raised a number of issues that you face at the moment in the Namibian context. Are these deal breakers, or are these nice to have issues if these barriers can be removed?
Yeah, good question. So look, a bunch of them, it's not about being nice to have. A bunch of them simply will add cost and make whatever it is that we're going to produce in our case, green ammonia, that much more unnecessarily expensive. But there are a couple of deal breakers. The most obvious one is the EPLs. There's absolutely anything. It's building a house. If somebody else can come in and say, underneath your house after you built it. So we are talking about a multi-billion-dollar investment. Is of a disproportionate scale. I mean, we are very confident that we can get there, provided we have a couple of these real deal breakers resolved by the end of next year. But if we do get, when we do get a single by far in Namibia, right? So we do need that particular one resolved as quickly as possible. Things like the kind of work, those are all just simple cost adders, making it that much harder for projects of this, projects that generate molecules or even electrons to become competitive and efficient. Look, it's just, we're very excited to see them done faster.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that clarification. Jerome and Johannes, you want to react to that? You see that also, that EPL as a key issue?
Jerome, you want to start, or? Okay, no, we don't see it as a deal breaker because there is still the passage to say if you want to dig basically under someone else, so it's a very expensive project, and it will also be expensive furnace, so to say. So that's why I don't see the risk that high.
But I mean, perspective and from all the engagements that, in this, I know that is something that is being looked at and that will be addressed in due course. So I think it's just one of those, items that, we'll just have to manage as we go through project development lifecycle. But ultimately, I think we are all incentivized, both, private sector and public and government, public sector, government, to, try and find a amicable solution to some of these issues, because that Paddy correctly put forward, it does not necessarily only affect hydrogen, right? It would affect almost any type of development that could be planned, in Namibia. So I would imagine that this is definitely something that will be addressed in due course.
Good. I see in the chat a number of questions that relate to offtake. You all touched upon the topic that you had a lot of offtake already ensured. So why is it less of an issue for your projects than for many other projects we hear about? Is it because the prices are so much better in Namibia?
Sorry, Dolph, just repeat that last part. Why are we able to attract off-takers?
Yes.
Yeah. Simple, because we are showing. Look, I don't know what anybody else is doing. All I hear is sort of, conceptually crazy numbers that are tossed around the world about green hydrogen. And as we developed the project and as we did the feed, continue to keep refining our financing model, we are seeing, let's be very clear, there is a premium, there's a cost difference between gray ammonia, for example, and green ammonia, no question, but the premium is not as significant as it's made out. Number one. Number two, there is absolutely, and we can prove it because we have already engaged. We had 10 people running after us. We have entered into MOUs with a selected group of them. So it's a fact. There are a group of people, a group of in procuring, even with a difference, even paying a little bit extra. I think the question is, how little is that little bit? And at what point does it, the friction is too big that they will not accept it? What we are finding is the level at which we are at this stage projecting, and as even between now and financial close, we probably can refine it a bit further. We have been able to attract off-takers. Good news. we should get the first mover advantage.
Okay, I mean, for us, you know, I think everyone is at their respective stages of their development, so I can only really comment on what we see. And really, from the initial work and the numbers that are being informed through the science that's being applied, we can see that there's a pathway to price competitiveness with respect to gray fertilizer products that are available in the market today. And of course, we are, you know, chasing this to try and ensure that there is some form of, you know, competitiveness and that we don't necessarily need to reflect any form of a premium. But of course, at the same time, you know, it's early stages in the development lab cycle. So for us, the conversation around offtake and actually mapping out all of the offtake that we'll realize and go into informing an FID around this next phase by the end of 2026, beginning of 2027, is really going to be kicking off in earnest in the new year. But from you know, interested firms and potential off-takers that are looking to procure the products that we intend to produce.
And Johannes, I understand you have Toyota currently as an off-taker. How, for that upscaling, what does it look like?
So we actually have already binding offtake agreements with steel manufacturers in Europe. But Toyota is, for example, one of the end users that are interested to decarbonize their value chain based on the steel that in the middle part produces. But so our offtake agreements are all based on market prices for gray iron. So we didn't achieve a green premium, but because of 2 points. Number one, the energy efficiency or the price of energy in the process. Number two, because we can use a lot of or mine waste materials, so relatively cheap input materials. We can offer our product at the price of gray iron, basically. So this is why we have offtake agreements already today, even though there's a regulatory insecurity. But for that, we need to be very competitive in many aspects. For example, in all cost aspects that we have. Yeah.
Very remarkable. Green product, same price as a niche, but remarkable. There are these opportunities. You also talked about the role of government in this. We heard that the Namibian government has put up this construct with the Environmental Investment Fund and is even taken equity shares in projects. Of course, there is an infrastructure dimension to this. Some of these projects need significant pipelines and harbors, etc. Maybe train lines need to be expanded. Is the government of Namibia, in your view, doing enough, or are there certain things where you say, oh, that could be strengthened further in terms of this type of financial and infrastructure engagement?
Okay.
Wants to
Should I start?
Please.
Go on, Johannes. I'll come straight behind you.
Okay, great. So I think there is still a lot to do, but it's always like a chicken and egg problem. If you don't have a relatively concrete business case, it's also difficult to build a new railway or a new new infrastructure. And I think that we can see the potentials with smaller projects starting, but I think we need to where also, for example, Namib can be convinced that there's a business case to make this investment. It is a railway line from improve, and especially so that this is something that for me, or that I believe a lot in. It needs to be electrified, or at least we need to make the very, very cheap energy that we can produce here available also in the logistics infrastructure, because for us this is one of the key cost drivers next to the inherent energy. And I think that is something that new, but I can also understand it's not as fast as sometimes maybe we wish for, because we also need to give the business case and very long into that we can give this to the projects. Yeah.
Ready, please.
Yeah. So look, I think as the sector expands, there will be a lot more need for common use infrastructure. In our project for the moment, because we are developing a project of reasonable scale, we very specifically selected the location in order to be completely self-reliant, so that it can be packaged as one piece and be done. So we're not needing any sort of support infrastructure, additional infrastructure costs that others will need to share with us or to bear, simply because of the volumes that we're dealing with and the locations we've elected to base ourselves at. But as we go forward, as the country sort of starts to develop more projects, clearly that will become a key. But I think at this stage, this is not an issue. What we do think is of value, though, particularly in the early stages, as we think of putting very significant investments in a country that is not necessarily has a track record of absorbing these sizes of investments, is to have the government as a partner. We are finding that is helpful. That helps to give confidence and comfort to the private sector investors, so that and it also gives the government an opportunity to ensure that we are aligned with government's own intent, its own policies. Quite a lot of them are very sensible things. I mean, those are good things for that in any case, but it's always good to have your partner sitting there monitoring you and ensuring that you're aligned with your objectives. So we very much welcome the government's investments, and I personally think from other things that have been involved elsewhere, particularly in the early stages in a country, as investment starts flowing in, having the government as a partner is very valuable.
Thank you. Jerome, you want to comment on this?
I mean, I think it goes without saying that for any industry to thrive, irrespective of what industry it is, you do need the buy-in of government as well as, of the necessary key stakeholders. I don't think so. For example, I do not think that the absence of government participation is going to determine whether it definitely does help. I do have, and I have seen that there's a question. If I should take the opportunity to address it, take the types of negotiations or discussions that are ongoing, especially around securing long-term contracts, whereas the practice tends to be more short-term, and this is the other issues that we have seen in the market. I think, and I would also like to point that not too long ago there was an announcement for development in Latin America with respect to Atom, who are also producing a fertilizer. I managed to sign a offtake agreement for all of the fertilizer produce that's going to be made, helping assist in making that a bankable project. And I think for us, the journey will be similar in trying to figure out who are the partners that will have interest in some of these industries. And of course, also requires to at times also attract results we may not necessarily be the norm in the market today, but I don't think it's a
I'm conscious of the time, and I want to close the meeting on time. Nadia, do you what we've heard so far?
I think it's it would be good to collaborate closely together in the upcoming months, as the government is really preparing this Namibia sectoral transformation investment plan. There is really a great momentum and a great opportunity to make sure that it includes the type of support that can unlock those projects. And the only way to get there is really to work closely together. So it's super interesting and very exciting to hear all what you have described. And really, I look forward to working with all of you on the next steps. Thanks.
Very good. So we will make the recording of this webinar available. Should be online by the end of the week. So if you want to go back to what was presented, as said, this was the 20th webinar in this series. We're I would very much like to thank our speakers, Johannes, Jerome, and Paddy, for their excellent contributions. It's always such a pleasure to hear how you're progressing and
Sure.
to see how we can support that.